Some days just feel like a turning point for the world. August 22nd, 2025, it was definitely one of those days. While most of us were just going about our regular lives, three huge but very different stories were unfolding across the globe. We're talking a story of human despair, one of high-stakes geopolitical chess, and another of really delicate economic diplomacy. So, we're going to break down what happened and, more importantly, why it all matters. And we're going to start with the most urgent news of the day, which is all captured in this one single devastating number: 514,000. That's over 500,000 people, a quarter of the entire population of Gaza, who are officially declared to be experiencing famine. So, on this day, the world's leading authority on food crises, it's called the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification System, or the IPC for short. They made it official. It was the word that, honestly, the whole world had been dreading, and it confirmed everyone's worst fears for Gaza. Now, you've got to understand, famine isn't just a word for being really hungry. No, it's a technical classification with these horrifyingly specific criteria. It means at least a fifth of the population is literally starving. 1 in 3 children are acutely malnourished, and people are dying every single day from lack of food. And here's what makes this so significant. It's the first time the IPC has ever declared a famine outside of Africa.
The UN humanitarian chief, Tom Fletcher, he just captured the gravity of the moment with this statement. He called it a 21st century famine, watched over by drones and all this advanced military tech, framing it not just as a tragedy, but as a deep, profound failure of the entire international community.
But this declaration? It immediately created two just completely clashing realities. On one side, you had the IPC, the UN, and the UK, all calling this a man-made crisis, and they directly blamed Israel for obstructing aid. But on the other side, the Israeli government flatly rejected the report, calling it false, biased, and part of a Hamas propaganda campaign. So, in the end, why does this day in Gaza matter so much? Well, it forces all of us to confront some really difficult questions about modern war, about the weaponization of aid, and about what responsibility the world truly has when a catastrophe like this unfolds in plain sight. Okay, so while that humanitarian crisis was being declared, a world away, a totally different story of intense geopolitical maneuvering was breaking. On the very same day, a landmark agreement brokered by the US was making headlines, and it promised to completely redraw the strategic map of the Caucasus. It's called the Trump Route for Peace and Prosperity, or TRIP for short. And here's the deal in 3 core parts. First, the U.S. gets a 99-year lease to control this critical land bridge called the Zangezur Corridor. Second, this creates a brand new trade route that completely, and I mean completely, bypasses both Iran and Russia. And third, it gives Europe a secure energy pipeline that's outside of Moscow's or Tehran's control. The immediate impact on Iran was, well, not subtle. Iranian-American journalist Banaf Shehzand put it bluntly, calling the deal a slap in the face to the Iranian regime. I mean, for decades, Iran has used its geography as a major point of leverage. This deal just takes it off the table. And to put an even finer point on it, listen to how Behnam Bentaleblu from the Foundation for Defense of Democracies explains it. He says Iran is now essentially carved out of a major regional trade route that's right on its own border. It loses revenue, it loses influence, and it loses its role as a gatekeeper. It's a huge shift. So the ripple effects here are absolutely massive. This one agreement, it ends a conflict that's been going on for 3 decades. It gives the U.S. a huge strategic foothold in the region, completely reshapes European energy security, and serves as a major setback for both Iran and Russia. In a single day, the strategic calculus of an entire region was just fundamentally changed. All right, so we've seen a story of humanitarian failure and one of hard-nosed geopolitics. Our third story from that same day shifts us to North America, and this one is all about delicate economic de-escalation, as a really tense trade war between the US and Canada took a pretty unexpected turn. So after months of this tariff-fueled trade war, things happen fast. There's a phone call between the two leaders on August 21st, and that leads to a major announcement the very next day. Canada announced it would drop some of its retaliatory tariffs, with the change set to kick in on September 1st. But here's a really crucial piece of context, something you have to remember to put all that trade war talk into perspective. As the Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney pointed out, a full 85% of the trade between the two countries, it was still completely tariff-free. So what was actually changing? Well, Canada agreed to drop its counter-tariffs on a whole range of U.S. consumer goods. But, and this is the key takeaway, the really big tariffs on steel, aluminum, and autos, those stayed right where they were. So yeah, this was a step back from the brink for sure, but it wasn't the end of the fight.
So there you have it, 3 enormous yet completely different stories, all unfolding in the exact same 24-hour cycle. Let's try to connect the dots here.
Think about it. On August 22, 2025, the world witnessed a formal declaration of mass starvation in Gaza. It saw a strategic pact signed in the Caucasus that was literally designed to isolate and bypass a major regional power. And it watched as 2 of the world's closest trading partners extended a kind of economic olive branch.
So what does a single, chaotic day like this really tell us? Well, we see a world where a humanitarian catastrophe, visible to absolutely everyone, is struggling for attention, while at the same time, nations are redrawing maps with backroom deals and economic rivals are cautiously stepping back from the brink. It leaves us with this really critical question. In this new global landscape, are these events truly separate, or are they showing us a future where power, aid, and trade are becoming completely disconnected from one another? That's definitely something to think about.